Every farm has a story. When it comes to dairy farming, these stories are often only heard by the animals raised, the land stewarded, and the family that makes it all possible. Join me, Dairy Gal Val, as I interview individuals from across the dairy industry, both within the United States and across the globe, discussing topics like farm management, the food industry, ag business and technology, and most importantly, their farm story. This is the Dairy Hour Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Dairy Hour Podcast. I am your host, Val Levine, or Dairy Gal Val, and I am here with Alice Crothers of Heels and Holsteins. Welcome, Alice. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. I'm very excited to experience your really fascinating story and hear a little bit about farming in Maryland.
Great.
So, I guess, why don't you start up by telling us a little bit about your operation as it is right now, your involvement in the operation?
Yeah. So we are Long Green Farms. My husband is the eighth generation to farm the same piece of ground. So this farm has been an operating dairy farm since 1759 by the Crothers family.
That's
So
really
a
that's
lot of history here, which also puts a big chunk on our shoulders, if you will. As my husband likes to say, you can't mess it up now. So, again, eighth generation farmers, Long Green Farms. We're in Rising Sun, Maryland. So, like the furthest northeast corner of Maryland you can be, probably 6 miles from PA and maybe 10 miles from Delaware. So, tip top northeast corner. Our total farm size is about 600 acres. We grow all of our own feed on site. And of those, about 425 tillable. We milk 140 cows twice a day, 4 a.m., 4 p.m., in a double eight herringbone parlor. So takes us about 2 hours total in the morning and at night in the milking parlor.
And I'm going to guess by your name, predominantly Holstein, all Holstein.
Predominantly Holsteins, but we have a fair amount of jerseys as well.
Get that butter fat in there.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Definitely. So is it you and your husband? Is there any other generations still working the farm, or is it just you and your husband?
Well, we have the ninth generation. So we have three little girls that are 10, 9, and 6. And as their time allows, they are involved in the farm as well. But as far as family goes, it's my husband and I for the eighth generation, and the seventh generation is not here.
Very good. And I know what you mean about the next generation coming on. I've been trying to encourage mine to get out and, start to help a little and do some things. And yeah, it's,
Well, I'll tell you, 9 and 10 has been good for us. So the 10-year-old is learning how to milk, and she's just tall enough to do it. So she's a great help in the parlor. The 9-year-old, she's pretty engaged. She's much better in the morning than she is in the afternoon, which is fine because the 10-year-old likes the afternoon better than the morning. But chances are one or the other are out there, and the 6-year-old pretty much plays with the water hose. So
yeah, that sounds about right. My girls are 7.5. So I guess that gives me hope for a little bit of time before before I can put the pressure on them, get those kids out there working, right?
yeah, no, and I would tell you a lot of it has been self-led. Like, um, they like to feed calves with me, but they enjoy that one-on-one time milking with their dad. The 10-year-old is interested in understanding the business side of things, so she
Wow.
asks me a lot about that, which is really interesting to see. And I'll tell you, we just finished the end of school year, and one of the things that it asks in their yearbook is, what do you want to be when you grow up? And both of our older girls wrote in the yearbook that they want to take the farm. And I think as
Yay.
parents, that's a huge honor to see your 9 and 10-year-old already saying, like, this is my future.
Oh, for sure. That's definitely now we got to keep the momentum going and hope they don't go off the rails, right? Just
Yeah,
gentle
that's exactly
pushes,
right.
gentle
Yeah.
pushes in the right direction. It'd be a real
Yeah.
shame if the next generation didn't take this farm over, right?
Yep, yep. So they seem interested in the 6-year-old. I think she's just too young. I mean, at this
Oh
point,
yeah.
like I said, the water hose is her greatest desire. So as long as she has that, she could really care less about anything else.
I mean, I'm in my
So
30s, and some days just the water hose seems like the right way to go. I mean, especially some of the weather that we had recently when it was 94 in May. I mean,
yeah,
the water
no,
hose
we
sometimes is the right direction.
absolutely, absolutely.
So you did not grow up on a farm, and you probably
Yeah.
grew up not writing that you wanted to be a farmer in your yearbook. I'm going to take a wild guess. So why don't you start from the beginning? Where did Alice come from? What led you to be Heels and Holsteins?
Well, love for one. But so my husband is the youngest of 3 boys, and he was very much involved in athletics. So the farm is small. I mentioned, we only milk 140 cows. And so growing up the youngest of 3 boys, he kind of was encouraged to look for other opportunities off the farm. And so that's what he did. He played sports. He got an opportunity to move to Tennessee to play football. And I grew up in Tennessee. So we met first semester freshman year of college.
What college
And
did you go to?
we both went to Carson Newman University. So it's a small liberal arts college in East Tennessee. Um, so we both went there. And again, that's where the love thing happened. And after college, it was still not like he coached football for a little while. I went on and got my master's at the University of Tennessee. So my master's is in healthcare administration. So you're right. I did not write in my yearbook I was going into farming. Um, and after I finished my master's, he coached for a few years. We got married, and he went into law enforcement, and I started working in private practice physician group of hospitalists and pulmonary critical care doctors. And we spent a few years together alone, and then we started a family, and we had our oldest, Sarah, in 2012. And not long after that, like 15 months later, we had our second, Henley. And not long after Henley was born, Caleb's father was diagnosed with cancer. And that was probably the first time I think even he had questioned, like, maybe I should go back to the farm. And originally, he took FMLA, and he came up to the farm to kind of like help his dad out, and especially in his dad's absence, to kind of like help on the farm. And I think there was a part of him that knew when he came back to help, but he also was kind of like deciding if maybe he wanted to do this. And a couple of trips back and forth, and he said, I think this would be a good opportunity. And I'd be lying if I didn't say I was literally like shaking in my boots. I didn't want to leave my career, but I also, one, absolutely adore my husband, but two, I do kind of feel like things in life happen for a reason. And even though I had no idea what I was getting myself into, love is blind, but sometimes that's the best because, like, we literally together took a huge leap of faith. We moved up here at 33 years old. My husband had been gone from the farm since he was 18. I grew up in suburbia. I did not grow up on a farm. I did not grow up around dairy farms. I had never been on another dairy farm. I had never spent more than 2 to 3 days here. So it was really like a giant leap of faith.
Culture shock.
Um, Culture shock. And really, dairy is a different industry. So I came with a background in business, and I had ran a medical practice for 10 years. And so I kind of thought, like, okay, I can use my business experience on the dairy. And I had no idea how much I needed to learn about the dairy industry. But I like it. Like, I liked the learning of it. Like, I really said, if we're going to do this, um, we're all in, hook, line, and sinker. We're all in. And he spent every waking moment, and there wasn't a lot of sleep, but he spent every waking moment outside, And I literally did a tremendous amount of research. Like I felt like I had 30 years or a lifetime that I needed to catch up on the dairy industry because so many people that are in the industry grew up on a farm. Um, and I felt just so far behind. I felt ignorant. I had no idea what I didn't know. And I literally just started doing research, joining forums or boards or following publications, anything that I could just get my hands on and like submerge myself in the industry. Um, because I wanted to be his partner. Like I wanted to help him, but I felt like I had no skills to bring. So that's really kind of how I got into it, blind, but in love.
Sometimes love is blind, and sometimes you're directed in different directions that you don't realize is actually the way to go. And
Yeah. So
everything does happen for a reason, and that's really neat. We as an industry are very lucky to have someone like you who's willing to learn, willing to immerse themselves, not just give up, hang up your boots and or hang up your heels and book it in the other direction. So that's really fascinating that you guys kind of jumped into it. Now you had said that he had two other brothers
yes.
and they didn't go back to help dad on the farm at all either, or how?
The middle brother has a farm in upstate New York of his
Okay.
own. And the older brother left the farm and had no real interest in coming back to the farm.
Yep. Which unfortunately seems to be the way a lot of young children or young kids on the farm end up going their separate ways, which is sad, but it is really neat that you guys were able to refine that connection and come back and really, be a part of it and be involved. So that's really fascinating. And if you could go back to when you were a kid and say, hey, you're actually going to end up being a dairy farmer. Uh,
My parents kind of joke and say, I'm one of four kids. And they say, of all their kids, that I'm the least likely to have ended up as a farmer's wife on a dairy farm, working with animals every day. Um, Not at all in the cards, but I will tell you, we've been here a little over 8 years and I wouldn't change anything. It was hard. And there still is times that it's hard. You got to have a lot of faith to do this.
oh,
Right
yeah.
now, just as we were talking about earlier, you just got to pray for rain sometimes and you just got to believe that the rain will come and you'll be able to grow the feed for the animals. It takes a lot of faith and we've had a lot of hardship. But I wouldn't change it. And I will tell you, I was at a career fair last week talking to elementary school kids. And in each rotation, the kids had certain questions that they were supposed to ask. So I was asked over and over again, what is it about your job that you love the most? And through, I love that my husband is my business partner. And I love that we're in this together. And I love that every day I walk outside and I am at work. And I love that my kids can come to work with me. It's summer. My kids just got out of school for the year, and every day they can come to work with me. They can come to work with their father. And this is a family business. And it is so rare to be in an industry in which the whole family gets to be involved. And that's what I love the most about my job is my family.
Yes, and it's a very special kind of relationship to where you can work with your husband every day and still go home at night and be still in love and not strangle each other. I guess that's a big plus, and it really means that there's a strong relationship there, because even some days when you do want to strangle each other, you go home and you're like, okay, well, we still do have to live with each other and we still are married and we still have these children, so we just kind of got to suck it up and keep on moving.
Yeah, we're fortunate that our strengths complement each other. They're very, very different from each other. And so most of the time we're really on the same page. Every now and then I want to like poke his eyeballs out, and I'm sure he feels the same about me. But for the most part, we're so polar that we really work well together.
It
So
sounds
it's
like
been
you're
a blessing.
It sounds like you're describing my husband and I. We are pretty opposite on a lot of things like that, but we tend to work together really, really well. Obviously, you
Yeah.
still have those moments, but you know, we tend to do really well together, which is great. So
Yeah.
I'm really happy to hear that there's somebody else in the world that does that with their husband, and you can kind of get through and get the job done and still love each other at the end of the day. So that's really a good thing. Now, so you have recently become more and more involved on sharing about your farm life on social media through your account Heels and Holsteins. How did you all of a sudden say, I think I want to have a social presence? Like how did you come into that? How did you pick your name? The background of that.
Well, to be honest, when I first moved to the farm, I had a lot of encouragement from the family and the friends and the people I worked with in Tennessee, like share your life, share your story. It's unique. And um, I was just nervous. I was super hesitant about doing it, and I was worried about criticism. And um, I don't know. I guess I was very afraid, not confident. And I felt like I didn't know enough about the industry. So how could I get on social media and talk about the industry? Because I didn't grow up on a farm and I had all those insecurities. And I would tell you maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we're a Land O'Lakes farm, and Land O'Lakes had reached out to me and asked me if I would go to an Advocate for Action conference. And I kind of was like, me? You want me? Are you sure? And I went, and it was all about learning how to tell your story. And I thought, this is really neat. I wish I had the courage to do that. And maybe a year passed, and Land O'Lakes came back to me and there was like, hey, do you want to go to the Young Dairy Leaders Institute? And I was like, me? Are you sure? And they were like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I went, and again, it was all about like having the confidence to share your story and being vocal on being vocal about dairy and about the industry. And um, you know, we are our biggest sales opportunity, if you will. Consumers want to connect with farms, and they want to connect with the farmer. And I know that. And I know how disconnected consumers are, because 8 years ago, I was the disconnected consumer. I went to the grocery store, I bought my products. I never once thought, where does this come from? How long did it take to get to my shelf? Is this fresh? Does it have antibiotics or not antibiotics? I never even thought about that. I read the label, I believed the label, and I bought it. And so the more prompting I was getting to like share my story, the more I was like, you know what? I am she. I am the person they are trying to reach, because 8 years ago, I am her. And I thought, if I can make that connection, maybe I don't have to know everything. Maybe I don't have to have grown up on a farm. And at Young Dairy Leaders, I met so many other young females in the industry that it really kind of gave me the confidence to say, females belong in agriculture. Females can have a strong voice in agriculture, and we can be proud to be leaders in agriculture. And all of those were kind of things that were insecurities of my own. And so I came back from Young Dairy Leaders. You have to make like a list of goals for the year. And I kind of just said, I'm going to put myself out there and see what happens. And at least to my face, I didn't receive the criticism I thought I would receive.
You didn't go
And
up in a puff of smoke. You're still here.
right. Like nobody came and kidnapped me. And it wasn't like, I got slammed off the internet or anything like that. And so I just kind of started rolling with it and had fun with it and engaged my children with it. And it's kind of taken off from there. But I mean, I really just said, I want to be authentic. I want to be myself. I want to have my kids and show the life of a dairy farmer's wife, the life of raising your kids on the farm, um, and the life of just being a dairy farmer, and I think showing consumers who we are kind of helps them connect and be more frank about asking the questions, which is what we want. We want them to ask the farmers the question and not, chase the labeling or the marketing or the anti-marketing, if you will.
Google or yep.
Yeah. So, so Young Dairy Leaders, Advocate for Action, those were all little seeds that really kind of helped give me the courage.
Good. Well, we're happy that you're here and we're happy you're sharing your experiences because it's a completely unique experience compared to a lot of people that have grown up in the industry or just have lived it their whole life, uh, and always had a knack for doing those things. So it's really cool to hear that you've put yourself out of your comfort zone to share your story, which is definitely a story that's different from everybody else's, and it also gives you the opportunity to learn by doing, put yourself out there. That's that's all you can ask for, is to just get that experience. And that's
Yeah,
really
and I learn something new every day. I still continue to research and try to submerge myself in the industry and just learn and grow and you know contribute to our farm. And find opportunities. You don't know what you don't know, so you have to go looking for it. And making connections with people across the country has been huge. I've met so many people like you from various places across the country, and you have no idea where those connections will lead you.
yes, I 100% agree with that. And I too am a huge supporter of the fact that you never stop learning. There's always more to learn, there's always different viewpoints to learn. And just because it's your viewpoint and it's the way that you've been doing it forever doesn't always mean that it's right. And I also am a huge proponent of getting out there, experiencing all that the industry has to offer, not just pulling yourself up on the farm, not getting out there talking to other farmers from around the country, because you can pick up such neat tidbits from farmers that are not from your area. And maybe, someone in a different state does something a little bit differently. And the next time you go to do that task, you look at it and you say, well, maybe if we tried doing it this way, maybe it's, XYZ better. And, sometimes it is, sometimes it goes horribly wrong, but at least you tried and what works for you and what does not work for you. And that's definitely a very important part of farming, in my opinion, especially in 2023. We're not back in the 1950s anymore. It's not the way that, grandpa and great grandpa used to do it. It's a completely different thing, and there's so many more facets to it at this point in the game. So you mentioned you're from Maryland. Um, what are some neat, I mean, I guess, if you don't think about it, sometimes you don't even think Maryland would even have a dairy farm in it. Um, Besides, you think of Maryland, you think Baltimore, you think seafood. So, what are some different things about Maryland that we should know?
So I would tell you Maryland is unique. And I would tell you really like every state has I guess differences and even within the same state. Maryland's a fairly small state, but we are home to over 40,000 dairy cows. And on about 300 farms. Most of the farms are fairly small farms. So most farms in Maryland have less than 100 cows. Which I think is something that makes us unique. I would tell you one thing that makes Maryland very unique is our proximity to the Chesapeake Bay. And there is tremendous interest, including interest of our own, to really protect the bay. And so it makes it a unique state to farm because there is such a concentration on the waterways in Maryland. But I think it provides us a really good opportunity as dairy farmers to show all the things that we're doing for our land, water, and resources. And some people may look at our proximity to the bay as a challenge, and I think we see it as an advantage. And it really has given us the opportunity to kind of highlight some of the things that not just we're doing in the industry, but so many other dairy farmers are doing in the industry to protect the environment.
Yeah, I guess I didn't even think of how close you would be to the Chesapeake Bay watershed down there. And that would definitely, it does seem like it would present challenges, but again, it's just something that that the farm has had to live with for generations, and has grown and adapted to. And it definitely does highlight the fact that the farmers are doing the most that they possibly can to ensure that that land and water, in this case, are great to go for generations, as you guys have shown, being the eighth and obviously ninth coming along generation on that farm. You want to make sure that there's a future for that 10th and 11th generation even. So that's really impressive. So, do you have anything else? Oh, I guess I said I wouldn't put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot just for a fun little question. Um, what is one of your memorable, like when you first started farming, do you have a memorable little story where you were just out there and something that you look back and you laugh now, but when you were doing it, you might have been like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? Why am I here? Do you have one of those little defining stories?
Yeah, actually, I can't wait to share this recording with my mother because she was present. And I was climbing out of a calf pen from feeding a calf, and my shorts
Oh,
got hung on the post, and I literally was pregnant and dangling from the post, and my mom was laughing so hard she couldn't even help me get down. And I literally was hanging by the leg of my shorts on this post, and I had no idea how to get myself off. And my mom could not stop laughing enough to help me. And I remember thinking to myself then, who am I fooling? Like, I can't do this. Like, it was mortifying. It was embarrassing, even though my mother was the only one there. It didn't matter. I literally was like, what am I doing? But I mean, I think it serves as a great memory. It was humbling, um, and a lot of fun.
how did you eventually get down? Did the shorts rip, or did
My mom eventually helped
she
me.
finally sucked
No,
it up and helped you?
yeah, no, listen, those shorts, they're tried and true. They were not letting go. But no, my mom eventually did help me get off the post. Um, but there's times where I remember the first time the cows got out and we hadn't been here long at all. I did not know how to chase cows. I had no idea what I was doing. And I would tell you, it was the workout of my life. I mean, it was sprints and agility. And I literally, chased cows for like 15 minutes and I was like ready to lay flat out dead. I mean, so it's been a lot of fun.
Oh no. Yeah, and don't worry, the cows getting out, it doesn't get old, trust me. Unfortunately, it still happens, and yeah, no matter how many times I chase them, I'll never be in shape for chasing cows. Especially when they get up through the thicket in the woods in the back of our farm, it's obstacle course over anything.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to say, when they're hungry, they'll come home. You know
Yeah.
better, but you want to say that.
And for big animals, they can move through that brush way faster than we can. It's not fair.
No, I agree. I agree.
They're awful stealthy. So
Yep.
I want to wrap up with a few quick rapid fire questions. So just answer what comes to mind first. Seafood or steak?
Ooh, seafood,
Seafood. What's your go-to?
shrimp.
Yeah.
Picking crabs takes too long. You don't get enough food out of it.
Oh, I love it. Um, Favorite vacation spot?
Um, I would tell you it's all about who you're with. And my husband and I like to go camping. And so anywhere we can go and get off the grid.
In a camper or a tent?
Oh, camper. We
Okay,
don't
good.
sweat at night on purpose, ever.
Exactly. That's people are like, oh, do you want to go camping in a tent? And I'm like, no, no, I
No,
don't.
I don't want to sleep on the ground and I will not sweat at night on purpose. My husband says all the time, I sweat for a living. I'm not doing it on vacation if I don't have to.
Love it. Lake or ocean?
Ooh, the ocean.
Um, let's see. Favorite season? You live in the Northeast.
Oh, so I'm going to tell you fall. I think the foliage here is beautiful. I swore when I left Tennessee, I would not find a more beautiful fall. I grew up at the foothills of the Smoky Mountains, and literally people come all across the world to see the fall. And I'm telling you, I have seen some beautiful colors here in the fall. And after fall is summer. I love to watch the crops grow, and I do love the sunshine that always has a breeze.
Yeah, we get some really great foliage up here. We're pretty close to the Adirondacks, so we get a lot of leaf peepers up here as well.
Oh,
And
yeah, beautiful.
the leaves do they get beautiful. Let's see. Chain restaurant of choice.
Mhm.
Anywhere's in the country. It doesn't have to be one local to you.
What if I told you I don't like chain restaurants?
Well, if
Am I
you don't
breaking
have
all
like
the
a
rules?
guilty pleasure fast food, like some days when you're just having a rough day, it's your go-to.
I would say no. My kids will tell you Chick-fil-A. That's their favorite. So if I was going to stop somewhere, it'd be Chick-fil-A for the kids.
There you go.
But I like, I don't know, I like to cook.
That's fair. All right, let's get into the dairy questions.
Yeah.
Whole, 2%, or skim?
Whole only.
And your favorite dairy product?
Too many to count. So right now I'm on a really big kick where I like to mix cottage cheese and Greek yogurt together.
I've seen that. I need to try that.
No, I love it. I eat it like every day for lunch. It's super high protein, which I chase protein. So it's super high protein. Put some berries in it. Oh, that's my go-to now. But then I would also tell you every single night I have cheese melted on something. So that something might change, but melted cheese is like number two always.
Melted cheese is definitely a staple in life. If you don't do melted cheese, like who even are you?
Right. I listen, I agree.
Now, this Greek yogurt cottage cheese thing, when you mix it, do you like blend it or you just stir it together?
No, I just stir it together.
Ooh. All right, I'm
I
gonna
love it. It has a little bit of texture. It's super, super creamy. I can't even tell you where I got the idea from, but I've probably been eating cottage cheese and Greek yogurt for the last 6 months every single day for lunch.
I feel like I've seen it online somewheres and I thought to myself, "Ooh, I should try that." Unless did you post about it? Maybe I saw it from you. I need to try this now. So I will keep you posted. I will give it a shot fairly soon.
Yes,
Delicious.
I love it.
Do you use vanilla Greek yogurt or like a flavored?
Yes. Nope. Vanilla.
Vanilla. Because I too need to get my protein in and I'm not overly great at it. So we're gonna try to jump on that bandwagon. So, Alice, I really, really enjoyed speaking with you today and learning more about your story. Do you want to plug where people can find you, follow you, and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, first I want to say thanks for having me. This has been really fun. I appreciate the opportunity. And you can follow me on social, either Facebook or Instagram or both at Hills, Heels, Hills and Holsteins. So again, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for having me. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please share with a friend, rate us, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. Please be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and leave a review. You can find me on most social media platforms at Dairy Gal Val or online at dairygalval.com. Thank you so much for coming to the Dairy Hour.